morning, and welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, and whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you're here every Sunday, once or twice a year, or maybe this is your first visit, we are glad that you're here. I'm Carol Molick, your worship associate, along with Debbie Street Idell. Our worship musician today is our music director, Tim McKnight. Welcome to our online worship service. For those of you who would like to use the chat during the service, you're more than welcome to do so. Just be sure to choose panelists and attendees so that everyone is able to see your posts. So this is me standing at the front door, greeting you all. Since I can't hug you myself, let's give ourselves a hug to say hello and welcome. I would also like to do a special welcome for those who are newcomers at Chalice. In addition to our online worship, I want you to know that many of our groups and activities continue to happen online as well. Activities like our Women's Book Club, Men's Breakfast Club, support groups, and children's religious education, as well as other things, continue to happen online. They're open to everyone. You do not have to be a member to participate. If you're new to Chalice and would like to learn more about these activities, you are invited to stay in this Zoom room after the service for the newcomers chat. Now, let us take a breath together.
We acknowledge that our service is taking place on the stolen territory of the Kumeyaay, meaning humans or people, and the Payamkawishim, meaning Western people. A land acknowledgement works to undo the intentional erasure of Indigenous people and to support the resilience and strength that all Indigenous people have shown. We acknowledge the original inhabitants as a first and critical step toward learning and working with Indigenous communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and sacred homeland.
The words for our call to worship are from Laura Wallace. As frozen earth holds the determined seed, this sacred space holds our weariness, our worry, our laughter, and our celebration. Let us bring seed and soul into the light of thought, the warmth of community, and the hope of love. Let us see together, hear together, and love together. Let us worship. Inspired by the Christian observance of Advent, we approach the winter holidays by lighting candles in the 4 weeks before Christmas. The tradition of Advent candles reaches back to pre-Christian Northern Europeans. During the darkest days of winter, they lit as many as 24 candles on an evergreen-covered wheel or wreath. By lighting a candle a day, they marked time, anticipating the return of the sun's light and warmth. Now we light the candles to remind us of the gathering darkness and the blessings to be found in the many stories and symbols of this time of year. We light the second candle of Advent for peace. May the promise of peace shine for all who are working to build a better world. Our Advent hymn this year is from our Teal hymnal, number 1046, Shall We Gather at the River? Please join us in singing the first 2 verses for the first 2 Sundays of Advent.
Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. On the margin of the river, washing up its silver spray, we will walk and worship ever all the happy golden day. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God.
Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by honoring our joys and sorrows. I would like to start this by sending our sincere sympathy to Reverend Sharon, who lost her mother this week. Reverend Sharon, our hearts are with you. If you would like to share a joy or a sorrow with the congregation this morning, now is the time for sharing in the chat box. If you would like to send Reverend Sharon a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, please email her. Her email address is in the chat box.
The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm by LeVar Burton and Susan Schaefer Bernardo, illustrated by Courtney Fletcher. This version is abridged. Long, long ago, before there were words, animals roamed in bountiful herds. Little rhinoceros lived happy and free, exploring mountains and meadows, rivers and trees. His world was delightful and chock full of magic, until out of the blue, the magic turned tragic. A storm swept through the valley, turning bright sky to black. A flash flood came raging, no time to react. Lost in the thundering, no time for wondering, chaos and lightning, fury so frightening, earth quaking, him shaking, water rumbling, him tumbling, raggedy, jaggedy, senseless calamity. The storm crashed through his world and tore it apart and took away everything dear to his heart. Rhino was stunned by the terrible scene, death and destruction all through the ravine. Enraged by the pain of such a great loss, Rhino acted without a thought to the cost. Rhino looked at his world all tattered and torn, stood out on a ledge, and swallowed the storm. Inside his belly, he felt the storm growing. Inside his head, he heard howling and blowing. Like a tornado, he spun as the storm raged inside, growing bigger and bigger and wider than wide. When he finally stopped, when he regained control, he was at the very bottom of a very deep hole. What to do? Rhino worried as rain dripped down his face. I'm lost and I'm lonely and in such a dark place. At just the right moment to comfort and guide him, a spider dropped down and dangled beside him. The world up above is shattered and gray, but it's where you belong, so you must find a way. To at the storm out and move through your sorrow, you'll find many helpers on your road to tomorrow. Oh, but that hole was dreadfully deep, and the walls all around him were slippery steep. Rhino tried to climb out, but was losing all hope, when Kangaroo heard him and threw down a rope. Though Rhino was heavy from the weight of the storm, they towed him right up, got him safe, dry, and warm. We're strong and steady and always ready. When danger strikes, we hop to it. Fire or flood, snow or mud, when help is needed, we'll pull you through it. Watching those heroes do what they did best gave Rhino the strength to set off on his quest. That storm he was clutching made him buzzy and blurry. It kept his brain foggy and filled him with worry. Where do I go? What do I do? How will I ever make it through? After every dark night, there comes a new day. Be kind, do your best, and you'll find your way. Up comes the sun. There are steps to complete. There isn't a map. Just follow your feet. Rhino followed his feet to a wallowing spot where he plopped on a rock and had a deep thought. I'm tired of caging the wind and the rain, exhausted from holding this anger and pain. We're all on this earth to learn and to grow, a wise old tortoise chimed in from below. Allowing yourself to start feeling your feelings is the very first step on the journey toward healing. It doesn't much matter if you're fast or you're slow. If you want to move forward, just trust and let go. Rhino shook and shimmied and stomped in the muck. And just as he hoped, that storm came unstuck. At first, one little raindrop leaked out of his eye. Then Rhino let go, and had a good cry. His tears formed a river that flowed to the sea, where a pod of whales swam happy and free. I do feel better, Rhino thought as he drifted. Then up swam a whale, and Rhino was lifted. If you ever feel blue, the whale said with a spout, remember to breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. Sing your own song and take it deep, deep, deep. Then rise above with a joyful leap. As he floated home on a gentle wave, Rhino felt calm and strong and brave. His vision was clear like the sky above, and he looked at his world through eyes filled with love. He thanked the kind spider and the brave kangaroo and all of the others who'd helped him through. He was glad to know that if he ever lost hope, they'd lend him a hand or throw him a rope. He had journeyed his journey a very long way to find the light in a world turned gray. He swallowed a storm with no thought to the cost. He'd felt all alone, he'd been tumbled and tossed. Life would bring changes, beginnings and ends, but he had faith in himself and faith in his friends. As they curled up together, he felt loved and protected, and he dreamed of a world that was safe and connected. He understood now it was love that mattered. Love could never be lost. Love could never be shattered. The end.
Our guest preacher this morning is Reverend Jeannie Francis Sherrill. She is the minister at Columbine Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Littleton, Colorado.
Dear friends, it is so good to be with you this morning. A December morning in which we consider the ways that the holidays are not always joyful. And it seems so simple to say that and obvious, yet very often inside ourselves and inside our social networks and our communities, there is a lot of pressure to performatively seem to be enjoying the holidays, even if one is not. It is as though letting others see your joy is the goal instead of experiencing that joy in yourself. And so this morning we pause. We pause. We pause. We consider tenderly with one another the ways that this holiday season is not joyful. Reverend Gretchen Haley wrote, "Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now. Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make, other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages, other countries, other stakes. Purge the past. Forgive the future, for each come too soon. Surrender only to this life, this day, this hour, not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it also beckons with beauty, startles with delight, if only we keep waking up. This is the gift we have been given, these body clothes, this heartbreak, this pulse, this breath, this light, these friends, this hope. Here we remember ourselves, all a part of it all." 2020 has offered so many opportunities to experience difficulty and sorrow. This week contained the deadliest days of the COVID pandemic in our nation, and it isn't getting better yet, it's still getting worse. We know that we will continue to face losses, and many of us are facing them even now, with friends, with loved ones, with coworkers, and others who are experiencing health difficulties, whether they are COVID or not. Those who I know who have lost someone in this year have not been allowed to spend time with them, at the end of their lives. For fear of infection spreading, the pandemic is impacting us in ways that truly break the heart, and in some cases break the mind, causing us to experience things that are out of our ordinary. This is a time in which many people are experiencing depression who have not experienced it in the past, or for whom it has never been this protracted and this difficult. Not to mention that the holidays are also the time of the year, if you are in the northern hemisphere, when we have less daylight. That lack of daylight changes how our brains function. We still operate with so many different amazing qualities that have never quite evolved out of us, and I am grateful for that. That we as human beings remain connected to the changes of the moon, to the changes of the tides, of the seasons, of heat and cold, of how much light or darkness there is. But in this time, and especially with COVID and the losses people have faced this year, I am hearing of more and more people who are experiencing for the first time or exacerbated from their usual seasonal affect disorder. Not having enough sunlight, enough vitamin D, causes the brain sometimes to experience a depression. The holidays are a time that spark depressions and reignite them for many people because of past losses. At the holidays, we remember people that we wish were with us and they are not. And those losses are achingly present in times when we normally and typically we gather together. And in this year, it is so precious and critical that we spend time as a community thinking about this and not wallowing in the difficulties and in the sadnesses that we must bear this year, but paying attention to them as a reality. Because if we do not, we will be caught unawares by the impact that the COVID pandemic, that the changes in government, that the rollbacks of rights that have happened in our nation, the deaths of great leaders like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May she rest in power. And in our own denomination, this week we grieve. We grieve the death of Reverend Hope Johnson. An incredible woman of faith. And today's sermon is being shared by two congregations. The Columbine congregation and another congregation whose minister has experienced the death of her mother. We are with you. 2020 also held the death of my final living grandparent. My biological grandmother on my mother's side died in January. Friends, we are part of something greater than ourselves. We are part of a beloved community that holds us inclusive of what we are experiencing in this life. Whether it is those highs of joy, whether for you the holidays such as Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa are so bright and beautiful that you are delighted in this season. And if that is the case for you, then I encourage you to let your joy be known while also making yourself available to know of the difficulties others carry in this self-same season. Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker said, "Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will." Holding space with one another is one of the most precious things we can do. And so, friends, I invite us to take space and time now to consider what we're carrying that is difficult, to consider what we are holding that by speaking it aloud, by giving it some time and space, we might lighten our own load, allow ourselves a bit of air and pathway to move through the experience of loss, of difficulty, or of memories that are arising at a very hard time. And that we might also find ourselves with some renewed interest and commitment and willingness to seek support where we need it. Whether that be therapeutic support, whether it be ministerial, something with a care team, whether it be something with your physician, or maybe even just caring for a friendship or a relationship that you have allowed too much time and distance or too much friction to exist there and you want to heal it. That by sharing and naming what is heavy in us, it gives it a chance to be changed. Every time we experience something, there is something of the original experience that is carried with it in the memory, and certainly in our bodies. But also it can come to us in new ways. That death, that loss, that difficulties that we have experienced in the past are not always felt as they were. And so in sharing them and making space for them, we create opportunities for them to be transformed, to feel and think about things even differently than we have before. And friends, in this moment, I invite you to give your body, mind, your heart, your spirit, space and time. Name aloud or name within yourself what you carry in this season that is hard and heavy. Sometimes when we give time and attention to our hurts, it can create an opening that creates tears or a renewed moment of expressing the emotions we're carrying about something. And I encourage you to be careful and tender with yourself. Careful, full of care. Sometimes as we think of our difficulties and what it is that might be making this season hard, we might think of ways that it could be eased, ways that our own journey could be elevated, lightened, the load shared. And so, friends, if there are things that you can imagine, ways that you can sense or predict that you might be able to bring yourself some peace, some sense of wholeness, of healing, some greater sense of being held, will you also in this moment, with the sound of the singing bowl, create space in your mind, your heart, your body, and your spirit for how you might be blessed, how you might find healing. In this space, consider how might you in this season be healed or become more whole than you experience yourself right now. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of love and support. You are worthy just as I am worthy, just as Reverend Wiley is worthy, just as each of us, when we experience our pain and our losses, are worthy of yet a new day. We are worthy of a breath of fresh air that revives our spirit in some way. We are worthy of a new sunrise. Friends, we are worthy of wholeness and of finding healing. And so are those around us. One of the most precious things we have in our possession isn't a thing at all. It's a we, a community, a beloved community we have chosen to weave our minds and hearts with, to cast our lots with in life, because our journey is better when we are together. And so, friends, think of your beloved community. Think of others who might be experiencing deep lows, seasonal affect disorder, depression for any number of reasons, loss for any number of reasons, the difficulties of being an extrovert in quarantine. It doesn't have to be something of monumental proportions, but think of your beloved community. Who do you know? How might you be part of the healing and an experience of wholeness for someone in your beloved community? Consider, friends, how will you share? Share, friends. Find ways in this time that you can give your light to someone else. Find ways that you can share joy. Find ways that you can listen when someone needs to share pain. Light your chalice at home. Continue the rituals that support your well-being. This chalice that I light at home, it is small and it is rather humble. But every time I light it, I think of you. Every time I light it, I think of we. Every time I light it, I think of the history of Unitarian Universalism and of our future. Light is warmth, it is heat, it is possibility, it illuminates the darkness. It reminds us that there is yet another possibility. And so, friends, as I conclude our time together this morning, know that you are loved, that you are worthy of being lifted up in the light, and that the blueness of these holidays is not all there is. And in all of this, may we, blessed be.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Good morning. The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. This morning, we're taking a special collection in order to offer December bonuses to our 3 executive staff members, our music director, Tim McKnight, our family ministries director, Chris O'Connor, and our congregational administrator, Marie Kim. I know that many of you appreciate as much as I do how our congregational life has stayed vibrant during the pandemic this year by moving almost entirely online. Our staff have had to learn entirely new skills and new ways of doing things, and they're doing an amazing job. I think you'd all agree. As a donation-based organization, we're not usually able to budget for bonuses in our operating budget. So this special collection is our chance to say thank you to our staff who are working so hard for the benefit of our religious community. Please text your donation to Chalice, followed by the word helping. So the dollar amount and then helping. If your Sunday donation is part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate pledge after the dollar amount. You can make a donation anytime during the rest of the service. The phone number will be on screen in a moment, and I'll also post it in the chat box. Please give as generously as you possibly can to give a bonus to our staff. I think we'd all agree that they deserve it. Thank you very much.
Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I'll be so blue thinking about you. Decorations of red on a green Christmas tree won't be the same, dear, if you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, and when those blue melodies start calling, you'll be doing all right with your Christmas of white. But I have a blue Christmas. Decorations of red on a green Christmas tree won't mean a thing, dear, if you're not here with me, I'll have a blue Christmas, that's certain. And when that blue melody starts hurting, you'll be doing all right with your Christmas of white. But I'll have a blue, blue Christmas.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Our closing words are A Winter Solstice Prayer by Edward Hayes. The dark shadow of space leans over us. We are mindful that the darkness of greed, exploitation, and hatred also lengthens its shadow over our small planet Earth. As our ancestors feared death and evil and all the dark powers of winter, we fear that the darkness of war, discrimination, and selfishness may doom us and our planet to an eternal winter. May we find hope in the lights we have kindled on this sacred night, hope in one another and in all who form the webwork of peace and justice that spans the world. In the heart of every person on this earth burns the spark of luminous goodness. In no heart is there total darkness. May we who have celebrated this winter solstice by our lives and service, by our prayers and love, call forth from one another the light and the love that is hidden in every heart. You are invited to close our time together by singing The Well. Newcomers are invited to stay here in the worship for a newcomer chat, and everyone is invited to the coffee hour.